those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And I'm Carlos Cesar.
You don't have to give me your last name anymore. You're a regular Carlos.
Oh, yeah? I don't even know if people know me. So maybe could be the first time they've seen me.
Well, hang around with us, you're well known. You're on all the wanted posters.
Well, we just got some breaking news from the Supreme Court of the United States.
Uh-oh.
The Supreme Court of the United States has ruled that same-sex marriage is legal in all 50 states. No state has the right to restrict same-sex marriage. This is where the United States is going. We've already ruled that Obamacare is perfectly legal, and it's the government's responsibility to fund health insurance for everybody. So now same-sex marriage is legal. What's next?
That's good to know
Obamacare. Maybe the Supreme Court is going to declare Fall River not a part of the United States. I don't know. Who knows? You never know what's going to happen, you know? I mean, the Supreme Court is a political body, much to the chagrin of the United States, but the Supreme Court has been for decades a political organization. That's why when any new president comes in, they just salivate when they get a seat or two on the Supreme Court to appoint, because they are politically biased. You can say what they want. Their rulings have been and always will be partisan rulings, because they get appointed by particular parties, and that's the reality. So, some of their rulings are good, some of their rulings are bad, and we have to live with them, just like the city council vote. Until November, we have to live with it. I wasn't here Wednesday. I was at a.
Well, Chip, before you get into that, I got to stop you here, because we have a couple of other breaking news stories, which are not really that breaking, but I think they need to be immediately talked about. One of the fines was heard yesterday in the housing court in Fall River. And the individual who contested it was Keith Ferreira. Before he could open his mouth, the magistrate dismissed the case. And Keith fought to have the case heard. He actually fought and said, no, you're going to hear this, and I want people to know what this is about. And he cited legal precedents. He cited that there is no ordinance. And the enforcement officer who was there, who, by the way, did not write the ticket, who had no idea because Ken Pacheco had signed it, said, oh no, there is an ordinance. There is no ordinance. There's none. And they've been proposed, but there's no ordinance. And he presented the whole thing, and then he proceeded, because they dismissed it because the city had no proof that it happened, he proceeded to say, hey, guess what? I don't use purple bags. So he admitted it, and they still dismissed it. Hey, Mr. Sutter, Mr. Mayor, I think they just told you, your pay-as-you-throw fine isn't legal. Remember, it's legal until challenged in court. I think they lost there. I mean, that's kind of sad. And
so what's next?
Yeah.
Well,
if I ask.
Well, I mean, how can you take anybody to court and charge them with a crime against an ordinance that doesn't exist?
That's right.
That's the whole problem. And contrary to what our attorney/mayor has to say, things are not legal until you go to court. The fact is, if you walk out in the middle of the street and murder somebody, you've committed a crime. Granted, you have to get due process, you have to be convicted of that crime, but the fact is, when someone is murdered, that is illegal. It doesn't have to go to court. To be deemed illegal. It's against the law. Just as, for the mayor to say everything is legal until a court says it's not legal is it's beyond ridiculous. We're from the ridiculous into the sublime. But I mean, obviously, we've completely lost touch with reality. They've never had any connection. This administration has never had any connection with the real people in Fall River, the people who pay the taxes. All we have to do is look at the senior center. They closed the senior center in downtown area where there's 5 elderly housing complexes and handicapped housing complexes in the area, and then they cite a contested figure about there are not that many people who utilize it. I don't care. The fact is, $41,000. You just hired a special assistant, gave him $45,000, and you're going to close a senior center that services people who have lived and worked in this community their whole life. This are the priorities of this administration. Screw the taxpayer. Close the senior centers. Close the libraries, which, everybody knows what the libraries are the poor man's universities. There are people who can't afford to buy, a library full of books, and they use the library. But this is what we close. This is the priorities. It draws a dramatic emphasis on the lack of connection between this elitist administration and the real people of Fall River. City Councilor Long read a 10-minute dissertation about the city and the poverty and the statistics, which I found rather ironic, since if anybody's been paying attention, I've been giving those same statistics for the last 2 years in front of the City Council. As a matter of fact, I gave half those statistics at citizens' input before he read his statement. And I don't need to read them. I know them by heart, unfortunately, that we have 23.3% of the people living below the poverty level, that we have, the second lowest household income, and it's half the state average. But I mean, there's a disconnect here between this city, and one of the new statistics I read at Tuesday's meeting was, which I think it's incredible. 22% of the people in Fall River, their household income is less than $15,000. And these are the people who we're taxing, and they don't realize that. I actually gave a couple of city councilors a breakdown of income, below $15,000, below $25,000, below $50,000, and it's incredible. But the little tiny 200,000 bar, we all know who those are, and 150 and 200,000 bars. Now I don't know. Carlos, you're a neighborhood leader. You work in a neighborhood that has a high population of hardworking but not very affluent people who go to work every day and deserve the respect for trying to make a living, and they're getting killed, and just nobody seems to care.
Exactly, and a perfect example is the closing of the public library on Pleasant Street. It's a small place, but serves so many people, not even counting with kids, because our neighborhood schools, a lot of kids don't have money to buy books. And you're right, they go from school to the library to use the books to do their homework. We have the parents that cannot afford a computer. They use the computers to check the emails, to look for jobs. We have the elderly people. It's a short walk into the library to pick up books. And that's it. $41,000. That's what we're talking about. Serving and cutting service of thousands of people because of $41,000. $41,000 don't even can get a sidewalk fixed. That's how much you can accomplish with $41,000 if it's applied the right way.
But let's remember,
another
Carlos,
thing before I forget, a closing of immigration office. The thousands of people that office serves, And for the past month, they've been crazy with applications because they want to get them done by the 30th. So what's going to happen to their people? They have to actually go to Boston or Providence now to get that done. And I don't understand.
Let them eat cake.
Yeah, well,
I don't understand.
And the thing is, Carlos, we got to look at the fact that we just invested over $100,000 into the renovation of that library. Okay, so we're going to close it for $41,000. So the $100,000 of taxpayer money didn't mean anything. No, because that $100,000 went into the pocket of one political supporter. Okay, this is why Fall River is in the situation it is. And then when you look at the fact that your project, your neighborhood project, your project to create a neighborhood center to reach out to the community, the heck with that. That's not important. $192,000 for an air conditioner is important. $10,000 for a study is important.
But who was in charge of that $192,000 air conditioning?
The wife of a president of a certain community college, but that's another story.
I wonder, huh?
But you know,
a smack of politicism.
Yeah, but this is the whole thing, and you know, we can't do anything. Now, interestingly enough, Chip brought it to my attention earlier this week, and I actually read it. It was Time Travel, Fall River by Thomas McQuain. By the way, this man would not be credited as a reputable or credible journalist because he writes for the New Yorker, by a local Fall River Herald News reporter. But maybe he is because he gets paid. But this talked about Fall River back in the 50s and the little fiefdoms that we had, and et cetera, et cetera. And I posted this to Facebook saying, isn't it amazing how Fall River really hasn't changed that much, blah, 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 blah. And everyone says, that is hate. If you hate it so much here, why don't you leave? Why is it that the people of Fall River, more especially those people who want to look at Fall River and say, it's wonderful, oh, everything's peaches and cream, give me a strawberry shortcake, I want a coffee cabinet, everything's perfect and fabulous and la la la, all through rose-colored glasses, and you know, we follow the yellow brick road to the wizard known as Captain Clueless. This isn't hate, these are facts, people. And facts can't be changed, okay, because they are what they are. The community needs to change and start accepting the fact that entitlement is not something we can live on.
Well, that's the problem, CJ, that we have here. We have a core of people in this community who just will not face reality. They practice the ostrich approach to living. They stick their head in the sand and they don't pull it out. When they do pull it out, they go, oh, you people are negative. You know, well, we can't fix Fall River unless we. I mean, now after 2 years of me spouting those statistics, Steve Long says this city is dead. It's dying. It's on its last gasp. We are leading the United States of America in our rate of growth of poverty in this city. So you're going to tell me that we're being negative? We're not being negative. We're looking at the causes of what's happening to this city. We're bringing in people that don't have any income. The people with income are leaving. As a matter of fact, one of the ostriches, who was talking about eggs, but not ostrich eggs, or eggs at Stop and Shop, talked about how, well, if you raise the price of eggs $1, you're going to complain to Stop and Shop? No. As I said, I'm not going to go to Stop and Shop. I'm going to leave and go to another place or buy a chicken or get less eggs or do whatever. But that's what's happening, people. It's amazing that he said that, because guess what? That's exactly what's been happening over the past 10 to 15 years in the city. People leave. They're sick of it. They can't take this anymore. They pull up their stakes and they go. And we wonder why. We have 23.3, almost a quarter of the population living below the poverty level. Everybody with money, most of them have left. They go. They're not going to try to fix the city. We're not negative. We're attempting to try to get the city that we live in, that we pay taxes in, that we care enough to stay and try to fight the fight, to be better off. So you want to stick your head in the sand or some other place that's even darker and moister, that's your prerogative. However, you know, if you don't want to face reality, you know, please don't ever read any kind of statistics about this city, because the only thing we ever lead in is unemployment and poverty.
Yeah, but you know, Chip, this article that was in the New Yorker, and for those people who want to find it, you can go to the New Yorker website. It's on June 8th. It said about 2 people out of the whole thing, 2 people who left Fall River became successes. And you know, this is the sad part about it. And again, the people who bury their head in the sand said, oh, well, you don't have to leave Fall River to be successful. You create your own success. You know, that is true. You do create your own success. But to have to leave Fall River to create it, that is now the way to do it. It's not because you're going to do it here in Fall River, because guess what? Nobody can create success in Fall River when everybody's on welfare.
Well, you can create success in Fall River if you give enough to the mayoral campaign and you get to open up low-income housing in a city that's already overburdened with low-income housing as a statistic. But I'm going to tell you what, for you people who say that, I challenge you to open up a Gucci bag shop or an Armani suit store and stay in business.
I agree. And you know, the thing is...
Because you're full of a lot of equine excrement.
But you know, here's the thing. You have a city councilor, actually the city council president, who turns around and says on the air, when talking about this housing report that says we have too much of it, we don't need any more, and he says there's nothing we can do. And by the way, I never read it. We get too many reports. We don't read them. Really? Really? You're a city councilor, you're elected to do a job, and you get a report that probably somebody spent $100,000 of taxpayer money to generate, and you don't read it? How many of the master plans did nobody read? Because we know they're all sitting on a shelf in Government Center. And we've spent taxpayer dollars to do it. It's time for an end. And here's the thing. I'm not going to blame the city council on this one. I'm not blaming the mayor on this one. I'm not even blaming the previous directors of the housing authority. I'm blaming it on you, the landlord. You, the property owner. Because you want to make sure that you get every single dollar you can get. You're out there for the massive greed. And you'll take any scumbag, any perv, any drunk, druggie, okay? Oh, I'm being negative, who has a Section 8 certificate, and you'll take it because you'd rather get the $900 for your rent. Because why should you rent to somebody for $700 or $800 a month and get your rent from them, and they'll keep your property when you can get $900 or $1,000 from somebody who's got a Section 8 certificate? And those Section 8 certificates can come from anywhere in the country. That's why we see people being bussed in here and trucked in here from other states, because you, the landlord, you, the property owner, want to contribute to the death of Fall River. And let me tell you something, that death knoll is getting louder and louder.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, they can say we're being negative, but it's not really us. The statistics that I've been reading to the council for 2 years, and the statistics that Steve Long, the new city councilor, was reading from that report, which I would have done it for 50 grand. I already had all those numbers anyway. I don't know why he spent $100,000 on that report. I would have done it for 50. The fact is that it's not us that's being negative. It's the federal government, the United States Census Bureau. I don't know how many other. It's like calling. Well, I guess we're not the only negative people. The 4 or 5 different agencies that said Fall River was in the top 50 in crime and heroin use. The one that whoever deemed Fall River the 4th most dangerous city. I guess everybody in the world is negative. And the judge who once said they were sick and tired of seeing the city of Fall River in his courtroom, the federal judge, and I still have that article. But you know something? For you people who say that, if you tell a lie long enough, people begin to believe it. Well, you've told that lie long enough. There's only one common denominator, not just CJ and I, not just people who say that we have problems in Fall River, and you continue to call negative, the entire country is saying that Fall River has got a problem. The state, the federal government, everybody is saying Fall River has a problem. And the only people that say we're not having a problem are the people who are either on the political dole or so clueless that they should get a job in City Hall.
Well, you know, it's interesting, Chip, because just before our show, we had our state delegation who was here, and a state representative from the 6th Bristol District, I believe, Carol Fiola, said, oh, and to support the school budget, we give them state grants, more grant money. And why do we get all this grant money? Because we have to pay it back in different ways. Nothing comes for free. But for some people, the reason the people of Fall River think, oh, well, it's grant money, we don't have to worry about it. No. We've given them grants for so long that every time they want redevelopment and economic development somewhere else in the state, they move the trash from there to Mount Trashmore and Fall River, the cesspool of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, because that's what we are becoming. And I'm not being negative when I say this. This is the impression across the country. This is the impression that the nation sees of Fall River. Okay? We used to be known as the city of hills, mills, and unpaid bills. Okay? We're still the city of hills and unpaid bills. So now we need something to put in the middle there, because guess what? We don't have mills anymore. And we don't have jobs. Yeah, we have Section 8. So, you know, now we have, you know, the city of hills, welfare, and unpaid bills, because that's what we've become. It really is. And that's the sad part about it.
If I could just, I was thinking this week and putting and it was good that Chip mentioned about 22% being poor. I think we are probably on 80%, and I will tell you why. We are 9,000 people with the budgets of 230, right? 230 million?
$246 million, I believe.
Around there.
Yeah.
Half of that goes to 10,000 people. The other 80,000 people lives with the other half.
Oh, you know, there's no doubt. If you look at that graph and you look at the dispersion, the dispersion of income in this city, and that's a very telling graph, and I gave it to a few councilors. When you look at the income, and it's broken down 15,000, 25,000, 50,000, and you look at the bar, and it's a really great graph. I'll give you a copy, because it gives you Fall River, it gives you the state average, and it gives you the national average on that graph. And you see Fall River, where we're leading the field at the bottom rungs of the economy, and as we get higher and higher in the economy level, Fall River begins to disappear. And you're right. I mean, look, Fall River is an extremely poor city. This is one of the reasons why people go, you know, I'm sick of you people talking about trash. You know, I can afford. Well, you know, I hate to tell you this, people, but there are people in this city who are already, before this next tax increase, before these next fee increases, before the next reevaluation of their homes, are making choices between medications and paying their bills, or medications and eating. And if you don't think that's true, you come to a retirees meeting. We're off for we're not going to have any in the summer, but September, the second Thursday, I will allow you to come in during part of the day and talk to some retirees who are living on peanuts, who are now paying the city over $3 million extra for their prescription drugs and health care. Even though they gave up things to get that health care, they gutted it so they could blow money again. And you'll be appalled. And if you think that we're ever going to back off, you're crazy, because, you know, it's their old mantra. Oh, stop complaining. It's only $10. Oh, it's only this. Well, look at the CPA. And I heard Carlos and CJ did a great job on that in the last show. I mean, you know, they voted for it a while back. Put it back on the ballot. Let's see let's see if people want to blow 200 grand on air conditioning in a museum or on a chimney. Is that what look, you know, screw the CPA. Get rid of it. You want to raise that kind of money? Let's put it towards something that benefits all the people, not just the select few. And as I said, here's Carlos that wants to get a neighborhood center in an area that has a lot of people who need a public library, who need a senior center, who need these things. But we have an administration that goes, hey, my administrators aren't going to give up their stipends. They're not giving back any money. We're not sharing crap. We're going to take it. We're going to take it out of the taxpayers' pockets, out of the employees' pockets, out of the seniors' pockets, and out of the children who use the public library. It's a disgrace for $80,000.
Well,
that we're closing those two facilities that service our youngest and our oldest in a population, the most vulnerable on either end of the spectrum. It's disgraceful. It's reprehensible.
And here's why. Children do not make political campaign contributions, and seniors can't afford to because they're going to decide between a trash bag and a medication. But, and this is what happens. But, now that we're on that, the mayor is promising that in 2017 he's going to repeal the $10 fee. Well, guess what? This city council has never met a fee or a tax that it ever gave back. That's the first thing.
Probably he's going to use that as a line on his new posters, campaign posters.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. I had conversations with some waste haulers, and as a matter of fact, 6 o'clock this morning, I started getting phone calls from businesses because the rumor mill out of City Hall is generating that we're now going to enact another ordinance for something else. And I said, look, it's not going to happen. I said, so don't even worry about it. They're scared on the ordinances they have now. But 1,100 contracts for private waste hauling in one day by one company. 700 contracts by another waste hauler. That's 1,800. I don't know how many units that equates to, but that's 1,800 contracts. Okay, so how is your budget going to hold up now, Mr. Mayor? Because and then I was advised that the mayor turned around and said, let them all privatize. Then I don't have to have that in my budget. Okay, really? Really, Mr. Mayor? So we can, why didn't you just say, look, we're going to privatize it? Or better yet, why didn't you just turn around and say, effective July 1st, the city of Fall River will no longer handle solid waste management. The property owners will have to take care of it themselves, because that's what we're doing now anyways. So,
and the expenses are there. I said it, and I'm going to keep telling. The expenses are there. That driver is going to get paid.
No matter what.
That gas is going to get paid, and so the expenses are there. If he's going down that street for one house or for 10 houses, the expenses are there. So, the city's not saving money because people is living private. You're going to private. I'm sorry.
That's right.
Well, let me just say this about this promise, because it's campaigns. He knows he's extremely unpopular, and his fee is like the straw that broke the camel's back again. So he's going to say he's going to repeal it. But let me tell you something. When's the last time you ever saw a government give you your money back on anything? As a matter of fact, I'll remind everybody that we voted to reduce the state sales tax, and look what our legislature is doing now. They're saying, hey, screw the people. We don't care what they said. Even though the Constitution says we're supposed, and we should be starting a statewide initiative on this, and we may, because basically the Senate and the House has given us the finger, and it's not the index finger either.
Right.
They're giving us the finger. We don't care what the public said. We're not going to reduce the sales tax. We don't care what they told us, and we're not only not going to reduce the sales tax, we're going to try to increase the state tax on these people, because you know something? Government never saw a dollar that they couldn't take out of your pocket.
That's true. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week here on Spindle City Straight Talk. You have a great weekend now. Bye-bye.